Hello toy fans! Today I'm going to show you how to make a bow for your action figures or dolls. The dimensions in this video will be for 1/12 scale or a 6-inch action figure such as Marvel Legends Hawkeye, but you can adjust the dimensions to fit other toy lines. The materials you will need for this project are paperboard, such as a cereal box or even a Marvel Legends box will work, Mod Podge, which we will be using as both a glue and a sealant, scissors, a ruler or T-square, a pencil, elastic cord. This particular one I'm using is called ultra thin beading cord, and I found it at Hobby Lobby. Your choice of colors of acrylic craft paint. This next part is optional, but you want the cheapest, lowest quality paintbrush you can find. You want a brush with those horrible stiff nylon bristles that often comes in a multi-pack for $1 or is sold with those cheap watercolor kits, a decent paintbrush with softer bristles, and a paint palette. First, we need to make a pattern on the paperboard. If you have a bow that came with one of your 6-inch action figures, you can trace around the outer edge of it for a template. Otherwise, you can use these dimensions here to get you started. Now, bows come in different shapes, so just pick your favorite style. To start off with, I'm going to make a simple long bow that has a small arch shape. I'm also going to sketch a second bow using the same dimensions, but I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting looking. This one's going to be a recurve bow because the central limbs of the bow are going to curve towards the archer before the tips curve away. One thing to keep in mind while sketching your bow design is that you want the grip, or the place where your figure is going to hold the bow, to be small enough to fit in their hand. For my two Marvel Legends action figures, I'm going to make the grip no larger than 3 millimeters wide on my pattern. You may want to measure the interior of your figure's hand so you know how wide to make the grip. Just keep in mind the finished bow will end up a little thicker than your pattern. Next, cut out your pattern. Trace around your pattern 4 times on the paperboard. You can now put your pattern away and keep it in case you want to make another bow in the future, but just make sure you don't use your pattern when you're assembling your bow. This is because your pattern is very likely to be slightly smaller than the 4 bow shapes you made when tracing around it. Cut out your 4 bow shapes. Apply a layer of Mod Podge to one side of one of the bow shapes. Stick a second bow shape on top of the glue. Keep applying layers of glue in your bow shapes until your bow is 4 paperboard layers thick. Allow the glue time to dry, and make sure that your bow is completely flat while it is drying. Then apply a thin layer of glue to the side of the bow. I'm using that really low quality paintbrush I mentioned earlier because it's going to apply a little texture with each brush stroke to the bow that's going to stand out later when it's painted. Allow the glue time to dry, and then apply a thin layer of glue to all of the other sides of the bow, including the edge where you can see the layers of paperboard. We're applying this layer of glue on the outside of the bow to help strengthen it. After the glue is dried once again, paint the bow with your choice of colors of acrylic craft paint. This may take more than one layer to cover the paperboard. If you want your bow to have a little more detail, after your paint has dried, you can pick a second paint that is a couple of shades darker than your first shade and dilute it with some water. I use a bit more water than paint. Brush on the layer of diluted paint to create a paint wash. Remember how I used that junky brush that I said was going to create texture? Well, this paint wash is going to cling to those brush strokes and help give the bow a little bit of a more wood grain appearance. After your paint has dried, apply another coat of Mod Podge to the entire surface of the bow, and once again, allow it time to dry. We're applying this top coat of Mod Podge to strengthen the bow again, but also to protect the paint from chipping when you are placing it in your figure's hands. Now we're going to apply the string to the bow. I'm using an elastic cord, but you can use whatever type of string you want. Tie one end of the string to one of the limbs of the bow. Double knot it, and I like to have my knots on the interior side of the bow. Next, tie the string to the opposite side of the bow using the same method. If you're using an elastic cord, you want your cord to be fairly loose, but tight enough that the string is not sagging when the bow is in an unused state. This will allow you enough room to stretch that cord to your figure's other hand so it looks like your figure is drawing the bow. I also like to apply a layer of Mod Podge directly to the knot and to where the string is attached to the bow to help secure the knot. Next week, we're going to make some arrows for the bow. I'm also thinking of trying to design a quiver, but I would like to know which style of attachment you prefer for quivers. The first style is like Hawkeye's, where the quiver just plugs into a hole on your figure's back. The second style is like the Toy Biz Taskmaster's quiver, where it has a strap that extends from one shoulder across the chest and around the back. Let me know whether you want me to try to design a quiver with a peg or one with a strap down in the comments below. And before we go, I have some photos to share from viewers utilizing some of my previous projects. The first photo is by Richie. Richie liked the idea of flames made from hot glue on my Ghost Rider chain video, but he put his own spin on it to create a flamethrower for his flame trooper. That turned out super cool, Richie. Next, Spectre CLS07 made tendrils for Venom. Very nicely done. If your Venom's looking a little plain, you can learn how to make your own tendrils out of hot glue by watching my Venom Tendrils guide. If you've tried any of my projects, I'd love to see your photos too. Just send me a link to your photos or send them to me on a social networking site. Just make sure I have your permission to share your photos and what name you would like me to use to give you credit for your work. And that's all the toy fun for today. Feel free to check out some of my other videos for more crafts and reviews, and you could always subscribe if you would like to stay updated. Thanks for watching!